We've got you covered all season long. Welcome to the BCSN Nation podcast, powered by Buffalo Wild Wings.
All right, here it is. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 32 of the BCSN Nation podcast, powered by Buffalo Wild Wings. The greatest of all time.
Switch hitter.
I got to change it up on Justin every now and then. He gets too settled into one role. All right, we got plenty to come today. Obviously, you see Alyssa and Sarah back at the desk with us for softball. Justin Feldkamp next to me, as always. I just returned from a nice little vacation trip down to Hocking Hills, and it got me thinking as I was putting the show together what maybe your guys' favorite trips may have been for a softball or a baseball travel ball situation. Alyssa, as the guest, you may go first. What your favorite trip was for a softball tournament?
Definitely in high school, driving home from Colorado after playing in the Sparkler. I think it was a Sunday after 2 games in, cannonballing home. That's definitely in the top 5. And then the other one, freshman year of college, right after COVID happened, we'd run-rolled Winthrop and we were on the way home. One of my teammates ate a cashew bar. Very allergic to cashews, so we did have to stop by the emergency room. But, the rest of the team got to see the White House, so good deal.
Wow. So you drove from Colorado back to Toledo?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
And you drove out there and then drove back?
Yes. My dad was like, we can do it. We can do it one time. We might as well do it.
Okay.
So him and I tag team driving and cannonballed it all the way back. We thought we were seeing dinosaurs by the time we got to Chicago.
That's good. Get some good father-daughter time?
Right, yes. My mom was in the back. She was knocked out, though,
I respect that move on mom's behalf. Justin.
All right, I'm going to go a couple. As a player, I remember going to some travel baseball tournaments in the summer. Battle Creek, Michigan, growing up in Cincinnati, so we went to Battle Creek, Michigan. That was just a memorable trip. And then we went to one in Atlanta, Georgia as well. And I kind of remember that, not necessarily for the baseball, but a sweet water park on one of the days off was a fun trip. And then as a coach, just this past year, I took a 12U team, the Sylvania Mavericks, down to the Ripken Experience Myrtle Beach tournament. And it was just a first-class tournament and great amenities, great facilities, fun environment, 30-something teams, got all the way to the quarterfinals, had an upset in the first round of the gold bracket tournament. So just a lot of memories made, which I think sometimes is lost with some parents in youth sports where they're win. But, 15, 20 years, no one asks you, hey, what was your record in summer ball when you were 12? They say, what do you remember? And I remember the water park in Atlanta or doing something with my buddies in the summer outside. So parents, don't forget you're making memories. Have that be the superseding point, not did you win 5-4 in a tournament on May 4th.
I mean, I got to play in a travel softball adult tournament out in Vegas, a world softball tournament. Nice. Did we win? No. But the memories, as Justin said, the memories were made. Make memories with us today. We got a clip of the week by Renewal by Anderson. We'll get you caught up on everything that's happened in softball over the last couple weeks, game of the week, and so much more. Make sure you're here every single Wednesday for a brand new episode of the podcast right here on BCSN at 4 p.m. or Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon, iHeartRadio, BCSNation.com/podcast. And from Wednesday to Wednesday, follow at BCSN Sports so you don't miss a thing. And now we'll start getting you caught up on what has happened with our segment we debuted last week, Take Note. Here you go. We want to get you caught up on some noteworthy performances, some newsworthy teams, and how things have gone over the last couple weeks. Alyssa, we'll let you get the ball rolling.
Got to talk about Perrysburg. 2 big back-to-back wins against notable teams within their conference, and it was team wins both days. I mean, you have a lineup with 9 hitters, all in the top rankings for the conference, and, I mean, it shows. They're putting the runs up.
Yeah, Perrysburg absolutely been on a tear. Number 2 in the most recent Division I state rankings is Perrysburg. They are rolling. Those are wins over Springfield and Anthony Wayne. Alyssa referencing. Justin, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll give you 2. One, Joe Wyant, the head coach at Eastwood, with win number 500 earlier this week. 500 wins is a big number over the course of, I believe, 27 years. So do some math there. And you're racking up a lot of wins on a consistent basis year over year, decade after decade, and just all-around great guy, not just a softball coach. He also has coached football during his time, coached wrestling as well. So just a well-rounded guy who just gives back to the community. And sometimes coaches don't get the recognition. The amount of energy that a coach puts forth for an individual team, let alone multiple teams at the high school level, is so underestimated. And you might just see him, and let's just take softball, for example, at a game in a dugout from 5 o'clock to 6:45. But all of the work behind the scenes, developing skill sets for your players, developing practice plans, putting together a lineup, managing the parents and the JV and varsity program and freshman program and tryouts, and just the list goes on and on. So hats off to Joe Wyant. And then also the state rankings, you alluded to Perrysburg being number 2 in Division I. Taking a look at the list right here, Anthony Wayne number 1 in Division II, Clay number 8 in Division II. Down to Division IV, you got Bryan 6th, Lake tied for 8th. And then you got Eastwood and Otsego 5th and 8th in Division 5. You got Patrick Henry out of the NWAL in Division 6. They are ranked 9th. And then in Division 7, you got Mohawk, New Regal, Tiffin Calvert, and Ayersville. So Northwest Ohio well represented in the state rankings.
Absolutely, yeah. Anthony Wayne hopping Walsh Jesuit, right? They were tied with them the last time we talked about rankings over here. I'm going with the Waite Indians softball team. All right, off to an unbeaten start in the City League. Alyssa's pick to win the City League. And by the way, they took on Justin's pick to win the City League a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that didn't go well for me. Alyssa, advantage.
A 26-7 win for the Indians over the Spartans. They said, I don't care how many City League titles you've won in a row. We're on a roll for ours this year. They've got Destiny Garza, Alexis Avila, both hitting .556, 25 combined RBIs, and stolen bases. Those two getting it done everywhere. Alexis Avila also over 50 strikeouts on the mound. The do-it-all for the Waite Indians. Unbeaten City League start. That's my newsworthy take-note performance over the last couple weeks. Shout out the Waite Indians. And now we're getting you back into recap action. Battle of I-75 hit Scott Park over the weekend on the softball side of things. And look away or turn off your AirPods if you are a Bowling Green Falcon fan for a second, because it was not the way you wanted it to go for BG. Toledo, the 3-game sweep, a 9-4 win on Friday, and then 6-5 and 10-5 wins in the doubleheader on Saturday, with one person being the star of that, who we'll talk about maybe more a little bit later, but a great run for Toledo, who really needed it, right? That puts them 1 game back in the loss column of NIU for the upcoming MAC tournament here in the final week of the regular season, Justin.
Yeah, I'm going to spoil the tease there. Sammy Bolding is who we're talking about. 4 home runs in 2 games. Let me repeat that for those in the back. 4 home runs in 2 games, and she is a freshman from Indiana, 328, 12 homers, 33 RBI. She's slugging .656. Just a fantastic pickup for Coach Jessica Bracamonte on the UT side. But, I maybe hesitate a little bit to say turn away or turn down the volume if you're a BG fan. Let's keep things in perspective. Coach Michelle Gardner in her first year, and she admitted that this year, think of this, Alyssa, as a head coach, to say that this season is not all about winning. At the Division I NCAA college softball level, to say that, you're making a statement. But I appreciate it because last year BG went 6-38. Yeah. 6-38. This year already, they're 15-33. So they have made strides, and they're able to progress. And she's had 6 pitchers start games. I don't know when you were in college, but the fact that they have 6 different pitchers. Normally, if you got an ace, you're throwing her a lot. So I think Gardner's trying to figure out which pitcher she can rely upon. I did look up. Remember playing against Bree Pratt at all? Did you ever pitch against? Okay. So yes. She was at Miami. Mm-hmm. In 2023, Miami pitched 3 pitchers as starters the entire season. So BG has had 6. So it's about developing for BG, making the right play, and then changing the culture. So despite losing 3 to your rival in somewhat close fashion, I would say, BG had 28 hits, UT had 38 earned runs allowed. BG gave up 23, UT gave up 14. So advantage UT in that department, and they had 5 home runs compared to 0 for BG. But progress is being made, and these games were solid ball games. It wasn't, run rule, Alyssa.
No, absolutely. And to your point about winning not being everything, it's going back to the fundamentals and creating a foundation. Once you have that foundation, you can kind of build from there, and but you got to figure out what works. You got to focus on the little things and the fundamentals and get those down and keep building from that. I mean, UT was just fun. Everyone loves a walk-off.
Yeah.
Love gritty softball.
No complaints.
love a come from behind. Just good game to watch, I thought.
I want to ask you about culture. How is a culture developed? Especially, I know you're on very successful teams at Anthony Wayne, so maybe culture wasn't an issue, but it was at BG. That's why a coach was let go and a new coach was brought in, and it looks like progressive steps are being made. But how did you experience culture at the high school, college level?
So I think I've experienced both ends of the spectrum, both great and not so great, and it's about looking at each other and, we got to figure out how to make this work. We're all here for the same goal. We have the same goal. How are we going to achieve that? Yeah. We don't have to be friends, best friends, outside of the locker room. But in the locker room and on the field, we have to be a teammate and be a unit. And that's huge.
Yeah. And the situation at Bowling Green, right, it's not too dissimilar. The when coach 𝗦𝗫𝗿𝘶𝗀 𝗡𝗶𝗵𝘁 came into Toledo, right? She turned the program around. They got to their first MAC tournament last year since 2019. Right here on the precipice of making another one. So there's a template just 25 miles north of, how to get things turned around for the Rockets. But a great two-game doubleheader sweep and a series sweep for the Rockets. We'll come back to this game a little bit later. There's your tease. But now we got to be right back after 30 seconds from Buffalo Wild Wings. Hit it, Steve.
Buffalo Wild Wings buy one, get one free boneless Thursdays saved me so much cash. I can finally do everything I've ever wanted in life, like skydiving. You ready? No, this was a mistake, a huge mistake. I want to go back. Go! Yeah, I'll probably just use the money I saved to get more buy one, get one free boneless wings at B-Dubs. No brainer. Buffalo Wild Wings. Let's go sports bar.
At participating locations, not valid with other offers or discounts. See website or app for details.
Let's go sports bar. Let's get to a border battle from last week. Whiteford and Whitmer taking it up north. Here we go. Well, not a great time if you're Whiteford, all right? You can keep your headphones in. I won't make the same mistake as I did with Bowling Green fans, but a 12-0 run rule victory for the Panthers, and you see it on the screen, and if you're listening, just listen up because Ashley Rodriguez had herself a day. 3 of 3. I'm trying to dodge my own camera here and look at my screen. 3 of 3, a double, 3 RBIs for the Panthers in what seemed like it was going to be a momentum-building game. This Whitmer team, a team that we talked about in the preseason where, hey, they could make a splash here, right? They could contest here in the NLL. A 2-8 start in the NLL record, at least for them coming into the right now. And the momentum, it kind of fell off, right? They've gone 4 games on a losing streak since then. But this one, a great momentum builder. Maybe you find where things need to get right and, man, make this your template for how to go for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I like these interstate division battles there, or non-division battles, but with Whiteford perennially a top contending team who goes on deep playoff runs every single year, it seems like, no matter if it's Coach Chris Hubbard or Coach Matt Van Brandt. But you bring up Ashley Rodriguez. She's hitting .441. She's a junior. Yep. Riley Hannibal hitting .413. She's a sophomore. Reagan LaPointe hitting .400 with 2 home runs. She's a sophomore. Olivia Munoz hitting .342 with 2 home runs. She's a sophomore. Pitcher Alexis Stolt, a sophomore for Whitmer. So just put all that together, you've got the makings of a future looking bright for the Panthers. So Coach Wagner has got pieces in place.
Yeah, plenty to build on.
Yeah, on the flip side for Whiteford, you got Ava Stevens hitting .444, Brooklyn Mills .417, Addison Kuzno .393. So they are going to take their lumps. Whiteford is similar, I want to say, softball-wise, to Ottawa Hills baseball, where they will play anybody and everybody. They'll challenge themselves throughout the regular season in order to prepare for the postseason where it matters most. And Coach Matt Van Brandt, I alluded to, I like to peek ahead to sometimes the players who have gone on to play in college. His daughter, Allie Van Brandt at Indiana University, looked up her stats the other day. She started all 46 games at second base for the Hoosiers. They're 30-16. Here's some stats for her. She's hitting .402, 53 hits, 4 home runs, 25 RBIs, .484 on base percentage. So great job, Allie. She was one of our BCSN honors, Female Athlete of the Year nominees during her high school time at Whiteford. But a great, solid win for Whitmer against Whiteford.
Now, on the opposite side of things, Alyssa, if you are Whiteford, you've been able to find the success. What stock do you put in a 12-0 Mercy Rule loss? Would you say, wasn't our day? Or do you look for the little things like, all right, what weren't we doing on the mound, or what weren't we doing at the plate?
I mean, you can't put too much into it. You kind of look at it. What did we do right? What did we do wrong? All right. Now we rebuild and go from there. Yeah, I mean, you can't hang your head on something like that. You really, the way that the softball and baseball season is, there's too many games to back to back to back, essentially, for you to hang your head.
Good point.
You got to keep going.
Yeah, the big thing looking at, I talked about Whitmer on a 4-game skid since that game. The big thing from looking at for them is stats, right? Run differential, they're up by over 8 runs in every single win. Losses, they're losing by 5+ runs. They're not in these tight games. It feels like we're hot, we're on fire, or where did the bats go, or what aren't we doing on the mound? And to your point, right, that is the youth of a team, right? You're trying to find the consistency for Coach Cassie Wagner.
100%. And that's what you want to continue to grow and develop. Whether you're a freshman, sophomore, or if you got upperclassmen playing, you got to find the ways to build and build. I tell the teams that I coach at the youth level, you got to harness the stuff that you were doing well and maintain that, and then learn from the mistakes that you make and get better. Okay, the physical errors are going to happen. It's the mental. Hey, am I always locked in?
Yep.
Am I getting the proper leadoff when the pitcher gets on the rubber or on the circle? All that type of stuff. All those incremental things from the first pitch to the last pitch, all of them, small little details, add up and adding up and adding up and adding up, and then likely, when you do all those things correctly as much as you can, it equates to wins.
We'll see if that equates to a win. The Panthers a chance to get an NLL win under their belts tonight. They'll take on Findlay in NLL Buckeye play. But now it's time for the Clip of the Week, brought to you by Renewal by Anderson. Do it, Steve. Well, if what we're going to describe sounds familiar, it's because we vaguely talked about it earlier. Here we go. Battle of I-75, Game 1 of the doubleheader on Saturday. Samantha Boulding at the plate. A bold statement. See you later. You can't spell walk-off without W. Here it goes. Out to left center field. A heck of a stretch over the weekend for Samantha Boulding. Led to MAC Player of the Week honors. Get this, over that weekend series, 778 average and 4 homers for Samantha Boulding. This one, bottom of the 10th. See you later. Extra innings makes the walk-off even sweeter, yeah?
Oh, that's awesome. I mean,
You want memories? Yeah.
Keep in mind, college softball, you play 7 innings, so we're going deep into
Yes.
extra innings here, and that pitch was just up, and she just hammered it deep left center. That's a satisfying feeling.
Yeah,
Keep in
she
mind,
went sicko mode.
Yeah, this UT team had gone on a long 15-game losing streak, I think, earlier in the season.
Okay.
And their bats were not working. But I looked at the MAC stats. They're second in batting average in the MAC right now. The pitching has hurt them a little bit. They're kind of middle of the pack, 7th in pitching ERA, 7th in fielding percentage as compared to BG, 10th in batting average, 8th in pitching ERA, 11th in fielding. So BG has that work to do. But UT currently 7th in the MAC standings. And a reminder to our listeners and viewers, the top 6 make the Mid-American Conference tournament. So Toledo still has some work to do. They're going to have opportunities. They got 9 regular season games to go. They have 17 wins right now, and this is Coach Jessica Bracamonte's 3rd year. 21 wins, 26 wins, and now 17. So they got some gain to ground here to continue that upward win total trajectory, but they got to get into that MAC tournament, and they're going to have their hands full, a lot of games in a compacted schedule, but they're going to have that opportunity. That's give yourself a chance to get into the tournament. And that's what they have at their foot right now.
Listen, when one player on the team gets this scalding hot, everybody feed off that energy, right?
Absolutely.
In the locker room. Yeah.
Absolutely. In the locker room, in the dugout.
Yes.
You talk about little things. Energy in the dugout is huge, especially for long games like this where, your energy's dying.
You got a second game of the doubleheader still to play.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that'll be our Clip of the Week, brought to you by Renewal by Anderson. Samantha Boulding, the Rockets, a doubleheader on Wednesday against Kent State. They follow it up with a 3-game series with NIU, for they're trailing by a game in the loss column in the MAC standings. You want more just like this, head over to @BCSN Sports on our TikTok. Help us roll up to 10,000 followers now. One last look back before we go forward, looking at Maumee and Otsego last week. A big NBC clash. Alyssa's pick, I believe, to win the NBC was the Maumee Panthers. A big win for them. An up and down, middle, right around 500. Words are hard. Season so far this season, but they've got wins against good teams. Otsego being one of those. 2-1 in a pitcher's duel for this one.
Yeah, Lake is currently in first. They're undefeated in the NBC standings as you go down the list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got Lake, Eastwood, Oak Harbor, Otsego, and Maumee. Lake 8-0, Eastwood 6-1, Oak Harbor 6-3, and then Otsego and Maumee both with 4-3 records in their conference. So Maumee still has some gain to ground, and Lake has proven so far that they are definitely the team to beat. But in this matchup, 4th inning, 2 RBI single by Hannah Ruiz, the difference in a 2-1 win for Maumee. And keep in mind, that was with 2 outs, 2 strikes, and 2 runners on base. That is the definition of clutch. And then, she also pitched in the circle, lefty, screwball, working to get outs, and she pitched to contact, 5 strikeouts as well. But our Chris Rawski, our color analyst for the game, mentioned that she pitched to contact. And I think, Alyssa, that might be something that is, I don't know, under-recognized in pitching, whether it's baseball or softball, is you don't have to be a flamethrower to be productive and to
Rick Porcello.
be a productive pitcher to put your team in position to win. You can rely upon your defense. That's why you take 100 ground balls and 100 fly balls, is to get good at defense. The pitcher doesn't have to blow smoke every single time. Just pitch to contact, let your defense make some plays. In some ways, you could be more efficient. You're not going deeper into counts. And I always like this as a player and now as a coach. When you got a pitcher who's pitching to contact, your defensive players are ready to go. They're not like,
engaged,
here's a ball, ball 4, ball 8, or here's another deep count with no action, foul ball, and 3 more balls, etc. You're on your toes. You're ready to make a play.
Yeah, so in high school, it seems, well, I guess just in general, when you have a pitcher who is absolutely dealing, and you're in the outfield, especially as an outfielder, you lose focus pretty quick. You know, you kind of zone out a little bit. But if you have someone who's, like you said, pitching to contact and just getting those ground balls, it's outs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just
they look the same in the scoreboard, right?
Exactly. And your defense is there to have your 6, so might as well make them work.
Yeah, I talked about it. I think I said it on the podcast, right? The NBC is the anybody can be champion. And you talked about those standings, right? Everybody has beaten up on everybody one way or the other, right? 𝗦𝗶𝗶𝗵𝘁𝗹𝘆, you talked about not a lot of losses in the NBC, but they've lost to 5th-ranked Eastwood. They've lost to 8th-ranked Lake. They've lost to Maumee. All these teams kind of toppling up on each other, all chasing Lake. So we'll see how that shakes out. But a great win for Maumee in the NBC last week. Oh, by the way, we'll give a shout-out real quick. Riley Rowe set the 𝗦𝗶𝗶𝗵𝘁𝗹𝘆 strikeout record in this game. So shout-out to Riley Rowe for that one, too. But now we got to get into our Game of the Week, brought to you by Dunn Chevy in Oregon. Hit it, Steve. Game of the Week, a non-conference clash. Start and Northwood this Friday, 5 p.m. on BCSN Plus. And kind of an interesting spot where both of these teams sit, right? Northwood about 14, 15 games into the season. Start kind of just getting their, no pun intended, start rolling here, right? They've only played a handful of games, whether that was the weather or whatever it's been that's piled into this, but this a game for Start that leads to some momentum if they can get this win, because they have, I was just talking to Alyssa before we started rolling, double headers 3 separate times in the next week or so. So a huge momentum game against a good Northwood program.
Yeah, 100%. And this matchup on paper is youth versus experience. Start youth, Northwood experience. Start, yes, had 6 City League titles in a row, and over the course of that span, never lost a single game within City League play. That ended this year with Alyssa's pick, Wait to win the league. Start still with some opportunities to catch up, and I believe they'll play each other again. But Coach Rob Vida still figuring things out. I know that first year, it's kind of like and our viewers or listeners out there, the first time you get a job or the first time you get to a certain grade level, if you want to connect it to academics, you're kind of figuring things out, learning the teachers, learning your classmates, or learning the job, and you're trying to figure out, okay, what do we do during this time of the year?
What's the dynamic around the office?
Yeah, all that type of stuff. So that's what Coach Rob Vida is doing in any coach in any sport in his or her first year. So keep that in mind as the Spartans progress throughout this given season. But then for Northwood, you got Coach Jennifer Noonan, and Leah Wofford. Just give me her in the circle every single time.
Yep.
Also at the plate in the batter's box, hitting .629 with 27 ribbies, 2.11 ERA in the circle with 94 strikeouts. And she's got some teammates who have delivered for her as well in the field and supporting her with some run support. Cadence Carmel hitting .484, and Shelby and Sheelin Mercer both getting it done with the bat as well. So this Northwood team, they had the goals and aspirations to win the TAC because they won it last year, and they had pieces last year with a little bit of inexperience, but they got a lot of valuable experience last year, and from what I've seen, that has paid off.
So listen, you look at these two teams, right, for Start, for Northwood, this out-of-conference game, especially on Northwood's side, right? They're 7-0 in the TAC. You kind of want to keep those things rolling. How does a non-conference matchup kind of in the middle of your conference play change things up, gives you a new look, but it also, you're like, I really want to keep this conference title rolling? Or
Absolutely. I mean, it gives you a new look, but at the same time, it's someone new, someone different.
Yeah.
And again, staying focused, playing your game, and applying all the things that you do. You talk about the little things, applying those everydays to the game and seeing where you can build. Start, not a lot of games under their belt, so not a lot of experience playing together and, like you said, figuring each other out in the way that one another plays, communicates, etc. You know what I mean? So I think it'll be really good for Start to just even get a couple more games under their belt.
yeah, that's what you and I were talking about off air, right? Was getting to figure out how you gel together with a new coach, with so many players that left from those City League teams over the last handful of years. And all right, where do I need to stack these people up in the lineup? Where is this person comfortable? Where are we going to get hot? Who's going to be the person that, accelerates how everything's going to go in this part of the season, right?
Right.
If you're trying to start a team, Alyssa, and trying to figure out like the building blocks, if you're Start where you kind of in some ways have to hit the reset button because you do have a new coach after Coach Rinaldi went from Start over to St. Ursula. What are you kind of looking for as far as a rebuild, if that is what a given program has to go through?
I say look at what you have currently, what works, and then build off of that. I mean, you can kind of get creative, and you'd be surprised. There's a lot of times where the kid who might not be superstar at practice turns out to be the gamer when it comes down to it.
Sure.
So I think just trial and error.
Start looking to get started. Northwood looking to keep rolling. A plus 64 run differential for Northwood in TAC play. Hoping to carry that over to Friday night's 5 p.m. matchup over on the BCSN Plus app when they take on Start. And again, your shout out to Leah Wofford, who has been absolutely dealing so far this season. That is our Game of the Week, brought to you by Dunn Chevy in Oregon. And we'll be right back after 30 seconds from Buffalo Wild Wings to wrap this thing up.
I've saved so much money enjoying Buffalo Wild Wings BOGO half-off Traditional Wing Tuesdays. I can finally afford everything I've ever wanted in life. Wings. All I ever wanted was more wings. So yeah, buy one, get one half-off Traditional Wings is the perfect deal for me and my lifetime yearnings. I value it more than literally anything. Buffalo Wild Wings. Let's go sports bar.
At participating locations, not valid with other offers or discounts. See website or app for details.
You may want more wings or you may want more games. We got you covered if it's that one. The Midas Games list. Let me see it, Steve. It's as good as gold. You see what I did there? Here we go. High school baseball today on Wednesday. St. John's Central Catholic on BCSN Plus. We got girls lacrosse if you need that. Anthony Wayne and Southview and an NLL crossover. And then Thursday, we talked about the Taction. There's Ottawa Hills and TC going at it. Blissfield and Whiteford north of the border. And then Friday, the playoffs are coming. Well, actually, they're coming back. Here we go. The Walleye taking on Fort Wayne. A nice little break to catch their breath for the Walleye. Fort Wayne going 7 with the Iowa Heartlanders. So great benefit there for the Fish. And then Start Northwood. We just talked about it, our game of the week at 5 p.m. on BCSN Plus. You want more Battle of I-75? We got that too. 7 p.m. at Fifth Third Field. The Rockets and the Falcons going at it in the baseball side of things. And then more CHSL action, Central Catholic, St. Francis.
Yeah, we're going to be looking forward to a ton of games here. Steve, let's keep that graphic up there. A lot of talking here with 1:30 to go on the podcast. Walleye rest versus rust situation there with Fort Wayne playing on Tuesday night. Walleye have been off for roughly 9-10 days once they dropped the puck on Friday night. So busy night in downtown TOL EDO in the 419. We got Huntington action at the Huntington Center with ECHL playoffs, and then we got BG and UT, the special annual Fifth Third Field. Tip of the cap to administrators at BG and UT and the head coaches at BG and UT for making this an annual event. Yeah. It should never, ever, ever go away. It's such a great event. So many families and teams go to this event, but then we got a lot of CHL action there with St. John's Central Catholic and St. Francis battling on the diamond, and softball as well. Blissfield and Whiteford, always a rivalry there north of the border. Ottawa Hills, TC as well.
Oh, by the way, you want more playoffs? They're coming Saturday. Another game's at 7 p.m. on Saturday as the Walleye take on Fort Wayne in Game 2 before they head to Fort Wayne next week. And if you're thinking about football, why wouldn't you be? The IFL, the Italian Bowl, 59 days from today at the Glass Bowl. Make sure you go get your tickets on the IFL site. You don't know where to go, head over to our BCSN Sports over on Twitter or Facebook. We got a link for you there. Make sure you check out the new turf at the Glass Bowl. Until then, we'll see you Next week with Bruce Johnson for some more baseball. Follow at Justin Feldkamp, at Melissa and Sarah. We're out.